Hello everybody. So the latest news coming out of India in relation to Australia's Test cricket tour over there is that the dharmasala ground, meant to be used for the third test, is no longer going to be hosting because the pitch was considered to be inadequate, not up to scratch. Now, for people who are paying attention to what was happening in the first test, and I'm talking about everyone other than Indians, they would notice that the first test had a ground that had a pitch that shouldn't probably have been used. It was a pitch that was quite obviously doctored. And what we mean by doctored in this case is that they had watered the right side at a length and had not watered the left side at a length. So the left side was all dusty, and this was at both ends. So it wasn't like, oops, they forgot to do it in one little spot. No, there were two quite big spots, one at each side, just on the left hand side. Now, why would they do that? And the general explanation is that they wanted to target left-handers. There's two reasons for that. Number one is that Australia has a lot of left-handers, particularly at the top order, and India does not. Second reason is because India has a specialist at bowling to left-handers in Ravi Ashwin, really good at bowling to left-handers, gets a lot of left-handers out, that's what he does, and Australia didn't have anyone who did that. So India not only had somebody who could take advantage of that, but also Australia had a lot of batsmen who could fall victim to that. Now, if you look in the Indian press, there were a lot of Indian people that were saying, well, that's fair enough. Australia has a weakness, that being lots of left-handers, we're allowed to exploit it by preparing a pitch in such a way that it disadvantages left-handed batsmen. India said everybody does this. And of course they pointed to Australia's Gabba ground last year against South Africa, which had a match over in 2 days and was viewed by the ICC to be of poor quality and unfairly favoured bowlers over batsmen. Now, I want to differentiate between the two of them is that you're not supposed to prepare pitches that finish in 2 days, or even 3 days, by the way. The Indian test finished in 3 days at Nagpur. It's meant to be about 4 days. Most matches we want to be over about halfway through the 4th day. Then if there's a bit of rain or good batting or whatever, it goes into the 5th day. They're 5-day tests. If the bowling's really good, it finishes on the 3rd day. That's okay. But pitches that are prepared so badly that there's no chance of a result are bad. They're considered poor, as are pitches that finish too quickly in 3 days, let alone 2. And so that one was quite rightly considered to be poor. It was unfair to batsmen, but didn't advantage either side. And the other thing is, it wasn't dangerous to bat on. So pitches that are dangerous to bat on will often get cancelled. Now, the Gabba pitch was criticised quite rightly by the ICC, and it was penalised quite reasonably. Now, the Indian test in Nagpur was one that actually advantaged one side over the other, which is much more significant than one that advantages bowlers over batsmen. Now, arguably, of course, bowlers, if Australia had gone in with lots of bowlers and South Africa didn't have very good bowlers, there would be an argument to say it was unfairly advantaging one side over the other. But as it turned out, South Africa went in with 5 quite good bowlers. Australia only went in with 4, plus an all-rounder. So arguably South Africa had better bowlers. So arguably that pitch advantaged South Africa. And if you look at the way that the match progressed, yes, Australia won, but only very narrowly. And if you look at the other tests in the series, which didn't have such issues, South Africa lost by much bigger margins. So arguably that test was not doctored to favour Australia, but in some ways actually favoured South Africa. So that's not a pitch doctored. Also, it wasn't on purpose. Now, the Nagpur pitch quite clearly was on purpose, because you didn't just have one patch, whoops, we forgot to water it properly. This was 2 quite big patches, not just randomly on the pitch, but at a length, at the ideal spot to gain an unfair advantage. It was clearly deliberate, and what should have happened is that when the ICC were made aware of it on the day before the match, when they did the pitch inspection, that's a normal time to do a pitch inspection, they should have said to the curators and said, okay guys, this is unfair to one team over the other. We need you to remedy it. You have two options. You can either fix it so that both sides are hard to bat on, or make it so that both sides are easy to bat on. We don't want to unfairly advantage left-handers over right-handers, or right-handers over left-handers. And they could have done that and said, all right, either you water the other side or you dust up the other side. Either way, so they're both the same. See you. And they should have given them a day to do that, until the morning of the match. Now, if they were able to do that, go ahead with the match. No problem. If they couldn't, could have delayed the start until they could finish, could do it, or then they would have had the choice, if they were convinced that it wasn't going to be fixed, or the curators weren't doing it, then they would say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to abandon this match, and we're going to say you can either come back here when you have a pitch that's ready and is fair, or we go to another venue. Or if we can't do any of that, we're going to forfeit the match and award the points to the opposite side, which would have been, because there's World Test Championship points on the line, awarded the World Test Championship points to Australia. Now, any of them would have been fine. We would have, of course, preferred for the pitch to be remedied. Now, you might say, oh, but India won by such a big margin, they would have won anyway. What is the problem? And you can also say, well, India had a few left-handed batsmen that did well. Well, firstly, Australia didn't have a bowler that could exploit it. India did. And secondly, I mean, that was at the end of the innings. India know their pitches. They know how to play even when it is doctored. So it's not a reasonable argument. The argument that Ravindra Jadeja got a few runs, but he's left-handed too, is not an argument. I mean, Alex Carey did too for Australia. That doesn't stop it being doctored. What makes it being doctored is the fact that it was doctored. And also we have the important fact is that it actually made a difference to who was losing their wickets. If you look at the way that David Warner and Usman Khawaja got out in the first innings, yes, they were the pace bowlers. They seemed in dramatically at a length. Now, I know it's not Ravindra, it's not Ravi Ashwin, it's not spinner, but it's still seaming in, and it's doing that because of the pitch doctoring. So they both got out for one run each in the second and third over. Very early in the match, unlikely to happen normally because of the pitch doctoring. So you can say that made a difference to the score. Not necessarily to who won, but to the score. And then you look at the fact that in the second innings, Ravi Ashwin came in and took 5 wickets, all left-handers. Now, I haven't checked those dismissals. I went out for dinner, didn't see it happen live, but there's a possibility at least that those were due to the pitch doctoring too, or at least some of them. So you had wickets falling because of this pitch doctoring. Not only that, but also Ravindra Jadeja used ointment on his finger. Now, some people say, well, that's not illegal. Well, it actually is. He was found guilty and had to pay 25% of his match fee. Now, it's not ball tampering because he didn't change the condition of the ball that we know of. But he did change the condition of his own finger, which gave him personally an unfair advantage. Not the whole team, but just him personally. And if you look at the way that he took dismissals in the first innings, he took 5 wickets. Coming back from injury, taking 5 wickets when he hadn't played any warm-up matches is really unlikely. And having that happen, and he was doing it on the ball, well, on his finger, with the ball in the other hand, just before he was about to bowl. And if you look at the way that he got Marnus Labuschagne, now Marnus Labuschagne is the world's #1 batsman. Got him out for 49 with a lot of spin. Now, was that because of the ointment? I'd say it probably was. The next ball he got Matthew Renshaw out for a golden duck, first ball. And maybe Renshaw not in great form, but 2 wickets in 2 balls with the ointment on. Were there any other wickets? Maybe. Maybe one more. And so you're saying, okay, there's wickets that fell because of this pitch doctoring and also because of this, well, I'm going to call it ball tampering, this illegal medical treatment. It's illegal. We'll say illegal medical treatment. Let's not call it ball tampering, let's call it illegal medical treatment because that's the technical term. It's similar level, not quite as bad as ball tampering because ball tampering helps everybody, while this only helped one bowler. So it's not quite as bad as ball tampering. But it actually made a difference to dismissals. And if we want to compare this to what happened in South Africa, 2018, Cameron Bancroft, the one which also got David Warner and Steve Smith banned, that didn't take any wickets. He had sandpaper out there, didn't actually take any wickets. Not only did it not change the result, it didn't even change the score, not that we know of. And so you have to say this thing, Ravi, Ravindra Jadeja, and particularly the curator's pitch doctoring is much worse. It actually caused wickets, it actually changed the score. Maybe it didn't change the result. Maybe India still would have won. I think they probably would have. It was an innings at 132 runs. I had predicted pre-match, before I knew about the pitch doctoring, 8-wicket win for India. And it probably would have been something like that, had there been no cheating. Would have still been an 8-wicket win for India. And the difference between a fair, hard-fought 8-wicket win and an unfair cheating innings at 132-run win is significant. And that's what we're looking at. And I'm hoping, though, that the dharmasala thing does mean that India don't cheat anymore, but they still cheated, and that is a big problem. That's it for me. Bye-bye now.